did your dad do for a living?
He was with the post office in Fredonia.
Okay.
Inside for his latter years, and before that he was a rural carrier.
Ah.
He was there about 40 years.
And what did your mother do?
She was a housewife. Just one brother.
Yeah. What was his name?
Robert.
What year were you born?
1927.
Did you graduate from high school?
After, yeah, graduated, yeah, right. And before I graduated, I enlisted in the Army Reserve.
Perfect.
And I got to be there for graduation.
That's great. So, George, do you remember December 7th, 1941?
December 7th, 1941, a day of infamy. Even as Japanese diplomats were conferring with Secretary of State Hull on peace measures, Nipponese planes were swooping down on Pearl Harbor. This pictorial record includes both U.S. films and pictures made by the enemy as they dropped their load of death on the naval base, on Wheeler Field, on civilian homes and schools. 100 Japanese planes and a number of midget submarines took part in the attack. In an hour and 5 minutes, the battleship Arizona was completely destroyed and 4 others severely damaged. 3 other battleships and 3 cruisers suffered lesser damage. Nearly 200 planes were destroyed. In that Sunday morning inferno, the Pacific Fleet appeared to be completely immobilized by the sneak attack. Nearly 3,000 casualties added to the catastrophe. Within hours, the United States declared war.
Pearl Harbor?
Yes.
What do you remember about that?
Well, we went for, I think it was on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. I think we went to Little Valley to my mother's aunt and uncle. And on the way back, we stopped at Hunter's store in Fredonia and found out what happened.
Yeah, so what'd you think? Do you have any reaction to it?
I don't know, mixed reaction, I guess. Surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, real surprise, yeah. I think probably a lot was what was coming in the future. Everybody was on edge.
Back to Fredonia High School, and did you enlist or did you get drafted?
No, I enlisted. I enlisted before the year was out to graduate, and they were kind enough to keep me in school till I did.
And what year did you graduate?
45. Well, there was a bunch of us guys in senior class, and we enlisted, and we were in the ASTRP program. Mm-hmm. And I think most of us got to graduate before we went in service. Boot camp. Well, I left here and went to Fort Dix and ended up in Fort Rucker, Alabama.
What were they training you for?
To be a soldier. Mostly.
Yeah. So the war was still going on in Japan at the time?
Absolutely.
Right.
The A-bomb stopped that. Well, Fort Rucker, we were there for several months, and they turned it into a helicopter base and sent us a whole bunch to Fort Blanding, Florida.
Okay. Then what happened?
Well, they were there for the rest of the basic training and then some, and they got a furlough, went back, and ended up in Fort Dix again. Went from there to Camp Pickett, Virginia for further training. Mm-hmm. And at the time, from start to finish there, they were training for the invasion of Japan. And the A-bomb came along and kind of changed that. Mm-hmm. But in fact, it changed it quite a bit.
You heard about the atomic bomb and Japan surrendering. How did you feel?
Well, I guess like everybody else, I guess it's over.
Was there any celebration?
Not too much. We were, as I say, we were down, I think we were down to Camp Rucker at the time.
Okay.
And they closed right down. Everything was quiet, more or less. Well, after we were in Camp Pickett, we get more training. We left New York on a troop ship, a banana boat. But we got there.
Yeah.
Ended up over in Le Havre, France.
Okay.
And we were there for a few days. And got on another ship, crossed the channel to Southampton, England.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, the base we were stationed at was on the Salisbury Plain in south central England. And at that time, it was a center for all communications for southern England. There were three areas. It was a big spread out deal. Area 5, Perham Downs, and Tidworth headquarters. I ended up in Tidworth headquarters, administration. But I spent the time there. What is my job? Several, a little bit of everything.
Right.
We were on guard duty. We were on MP, riding shotgun on trains to Southampton. Mostly we just routine stuff that goes on at the base. It was a base at the time for getting dependents, GI dependents, and their families, and getting them to Southampton to get on the ship to New York. It was quite a complicated deal. We did everything from customs work to, as I say, riding shotgun on the trains, help load ship, and then the rest of it was routine stuff. You're going to look around and see the damage all over here, but
well, tell me about that. What damage did you see in England?
oh, we got into London about 2 or 3 times on pass.
Yep.
And as it was, they had a bus tour of places that were bombed out and so forth, and the messes. And it was interesting. But those people must have gone through one hell of a lot. And I give them a lot of credit for sticking with it.
Did you interact with the British people, with the British military at all?
Yeah, I knew a couple of fellows who were close by the base there, and they sort of gave an escort around,
Right.
which was nice. And this was, of course, after the war, right? It had ended and everything. So it was quite an experience. No, they were glad that the Americans were there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people think, well, what the heck are you doing here? But they were good congenial. They were good. One of the English guys and I went up in a private plane over Winchester, England,
Mm-hmm.
and over Stonehenge and so forth. It was quite a sight, but not a military. It was on pass.
Funny. Anything funny that occurred while you were in the service? Anything?
Oh yeah.
Like what? Give me a story.
The base we were on was three areas, and we were in the central area. They had a PW camp, German PW camp, which they occupied. They had a GI occupant camp, and one Sunday, 2 guys got away. And so they picked 6 of us up, went out and scoured the fields. And that was a kind of a comical thing. It was dumb on the officer's part. He was the only one that had any ammunition in the rifle. The rest of them were walking around there, not, we didn't know at the time. And they finally got the guys, but not through us.
Talk to the Germans at all?
Not too much.
Yeah.
No. They're just, other than they came for the laundry and stuff like that, but no. They're pretty tight. We're pretty tight-lipped.
Were they there? Was there a lot of German PWs?
I don't know how many, but there was quite a bunch. Enough for encampment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they come to find out through one of the interpreters, he said that if they messed up or did anything out of line, they were headed for the coal fields in France. So they had 1 or 2 that took the journey.
Oh my gosh. What did you feel about, there you saw German prisoners of war. How did you feel about them?
How did I feel about them?
Yeah.
Well, they were common soldiers, and they weren't to blame for what happened up top.
Mm-hmm.
But they were doing their dirty work for them.
Right.
Good. Didn't see too much of them. They just took it for granted. I think probably one of the most enlightening experiences was traveling through France and Belgium on French railroad boxcar.
Tell me.
The old 40 and 8. 40 troops or 8 horses. And that's where I met the fellow from Forestville.
Yeah.
On there. It was on a 40 and 8 going through France and Belgium eventually. And of course everybody says, where are you from? Where do you live? Down near Buffalo. Yeah? And one guy was quite interested. He said, whereabouts near? I says, Fredonia. He says, I'm from Forestville.
Wow.
So I checked with him afterwards, and he's passed away several years ago.
Right.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
They're nice guys. But these boxcars, I think it was a 2-day trip each way. And they had 6 inches of straw on the floor. That was it. But I'd heard about the 40 and 8s from different World War I veterans.
Yeah.
And that was an experience.
What was the devastation like in France and Belgium?
Oh, a mess. A mess. They started to clean it up.
Yeah.
But it would take a long time.
So what were you doing in Belgium and France?
We were just traveling mostly.
Yeah.
And as I say, we were in Belgium for about maybe a couple of weeks and did some more training, and come back and went across the channel again and into Southampton. Eventually closed down the 3 areas in the camp. It was all spread out among the countryside quite a ways. When they started to deactivate it and put stuff together and get ready to send it down to APO 437 Southampton, we were in on that. And from there, when we got to Southampton, the whole bunch,
Right.
and by that time it had diminished. We started off in the company of 200. And over a few months, it got down to about, I'd say 35. And one of the last ones to leave. We got down to Southampton, and got on the ship, and the guy says, where are we going? And the guys on the ship says, we're going to Germany. I says, oh, well, that's great. Been there, seen there, done that, and all that stuff. We got into Bremerhaven, Germany, and we're there for a while. And then when the time to load ship to come home, we come back through the channel, got to New York. That was it.
Where did you go from New York?
Back to Fort Dix.
Fort Dix?
And discharged.
Then you come back home to Fredonia.
Well, the train came this way and I was on it. Yes.
So when you came home, what did your mom and dad say? They hadn't seen you in a while.
Oh, they were glad to see me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I called them when I got into New York. I'm on the way home, but it's going to be a few days, which normal. And I didn't call them. I popped in the door.
Oh my gosh.
They knew I was coming, so it wasn't a complete surprise.
Yeah.
So it worked out real well. And I wasn't home probably a week. It was around Christmas time, I think, some holiday. And they were short of help at the post office. And you want to work Sunday and work out? Yeah, I guess so. I'd done it before. So I went to work, and that was about it right there. It's just temporary.
What did you do after that, George? Where did you work?
The wife's folks had a family party, and the neighbors and so forth. And I got to talking to one of the car dealers, and had a garage, and they just moved from the old garage to the new garage, and all the parts in the parts room were dumped into a pile in the boiler room. And the owner says, "Do you want a job?" And I says, "Well, I guess I gotta find something." Yeah. He said, "Would you like to be our parts manager?" So it was a learning experience to go through those and catalog them and sort them out and set it up in the new parts room.
Wow.
It was worthwhile. I mean, I learned a lot. And about the same time, I got a call from the post office, and they said, "We got some part-time work for you. Do you want to work?" Well, if I can work it in with this other, yeah. So for several months, I worked back and forth, and it worked out pretty good. And then,
What'd you do after that? Did you finally work in the car business, or did you work in the car business?
no, I was only there about a year.
Okay.
And he was kind enough to let me float back and forth. So, and then I started getting more time in down at the post office.
Okay.
And I'd work there during high school because they were short of help. And so I had some time credited here and there. So that's where I went. In about 1948, I think it was, first part, I got a call one night after work. It says, "Do you want to work steady?" I said, "Hey, I guess I can." So there I was. I started in.
Great.
And I got a permanent appointment for a route. I think it was 1950, something like that. In fact, this was a route.
No kidding. Oh, isn't that something? So that's what you did for your career, was a postman. Post
Yes.
office, yeah.
I was there before I retired. I had the last year or last few months I worked, I was at a letter carrier. And the last few months I had problems with my hip.
Right.
The doctor said the doctor's wife is a resident here.
Really?
But anyway, I thought it was my knee, and he checked me out and everything. He said, "Nope, you got to have a replacement." I said, "Oh boy, okay." So I got a replacement, and after I got back, went to see him. He says, "Do you intend to go back to work?" Because mine was a walking route.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, can I?" And he says, "So that was that." He said, "How much time you got in?" I said, well, right now, at this point, I got 41 years.
Wow.
And he says, "You know what?" He says, "It's time you go out to pasture." But I accepted it, and that was it. So, and after that, I don't want to brag, but after a few years, I had to have the other hip replaced. And after several years, I had a knee replaced. So I'm walking on metal.
Well, yeah, you're doing well. You're doing well. Well, when you think about your service career and being part of World War II, do you think about it? Do you think about the legacy of it all? What it meant to you to be part of the service?
Yeah, I think it was an experience. And as I say, I had a variety of jobs in administration, headquarters, and it was well worthwhile. Some guys don't bite that stuff, but I didn't mind it.
I salute you for being what your service to your country. I thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I'm sure I wasn't very colorful, but a lot of things happened.
Right. So you were in Germany, Belgium, and France.
In England.
In England, yes.
Yeah, that was quite an experience for a kid out of high school, a year and a half. I mean, thank goodness the war was over. I mean, we didn't have any choice, but then that was it.
Yeah.
But you take in the sights, and that was good. Stonehenge is a site, a real site. And I visited that 2 or 3 times eventually. And you could walk around and the stone, all through there, it was open.
Right.
But I after that, I understand they fenced it in and confined it. Because people were chipping off pieces of stone and, for souvenirs.
Mm-hmm.
But had to do it all over again. I guess I didn't have a choice, but that was all right.
Yeah.
That's okay. Good experience. And it worked out good.
Well, I salute you, George.
Thank you.
I thank you for your service. Anything else I should mention? You should mention?
I don't want to brag.
Go ahead.
A week or so ago, I belonged to the Fredonia Fire Department, volunteer. And after I'd been home for 4 or 5 years, I don't know, yeah, more than that, 7, 8 years, I joined the fire department and was with them. Went through the ranks, became chief in 65, 67, and I just had a real celebration here a couple of weeks ago. 70 years.
Oh my gosh.
And that was going along with all the other stuff I went through.
Congratulations.
As I say, been there, done that, and seen that, I guess. So